I have two sets of seedlings here. The ones on the right are clearly smaller. They average about 3.5 inches tall, and they have about 3.5 true leaves growing on them. The ones on the left are clearly much larger. These ones have an average height of 7 inches, and on average they have 5 true leaves growing. So what's the difference between these two groups of tomato seedling? Both sets were started on the same day. In fact, the seeds were put into my bagging method, and they all came out of the same baggies. There's actually two types of tomatoes here, the Sweet 100s and the new GMO purples. But both types are doing the same thing. The type of tomato is not the difference in height. As soon as the seeds germinated, they were potted in soil. I used my standard ProMix soil for that. And they've been under a good quality LED light ever since. They get watered whenever they need it. So I monitor the surface and water as needed. So smaller pots get watered a little more frequently than larger ones. I don't just water the whole batch. I water each container as needed. Both groups of seedlings are under the LED lights and are getting equal amounts of light. So what is the difference here? When I started the seeds, I put 2 seeds into each pot. Once the seedlings started to develop the true leaf, I took one of those seedlings out and repotted it. So one of the 2 original seedlings was left in the pot, and the other one was transplanted. And that transplanting process damages the roots. The seedlings on the left had very little root disturbance. The seeds were put into the soil and the roots were left where they grew. Now there might have been a little bit of damage as I took the second seedling out, but I tried to do as little damage to the original plant as possible. I then took the seedling out, and I was careful, so it still had a good set of roots, and I repotted it. But whenever you transplant seedling, it doesn't matter how careful you are, you're going to do some root damage. So the difference between these two groups of seedlings is that one had very low root damage, and the other one had a fair amount. That set the plant back. It now stopped growing above ground. It stopped making new leaves while it regenerated the root system. The plant will focus its growth on the root system until it gets large enough and catches up to the top part of the plant. And then both the roots and the leaves start growing. But that sets the seedlings back. And that's the difference between these two groups of seedlings. And this applies to any plant, not just tomatoes. When you're starting seedlings, if you want really strong, healthy plants, put them in the larger pots right away. Don't use these small cell packs. There isn't enough soil in there to grow them for very long. And it only takes a few weeks, and the seedlings are too large for those cell packs, and then you have to transplant them. That transplanting process harms the roots and sets your seedlings back. I've always liked putting my seeds directly into larger pots. They grow better. Now that doesn't mean long term that there's a problem with these smaller seedlings. They will eventually grow into nice sized plants and produce tomatoes. That's really not the issue. The point is that we're starting them indoors to get a head start on the season. So we want the plants as large as possible when they go outside. The best way to do that is to eliminate the transplanting process. Happy gardening.